Newman here with 910 Airgun Tuning and Repairs. Today we are talking about the FX Impact Trigger Assembly. We're going to go over the assembly, disassembly of the trigger. We're going to go over the different components of it. We're also going to go over how to tune it. So this is all going to be in one video. I'm going to be labeling this as a tuning video rather than a repair video because it's mostly about how to tune the trigger. Alright, so as you see, the first few tools we have here, just a pair of needle nose, pliers. We got a pair of forceps for tightly reach situations. And then we've got our 3 Allen keys, a 2mm Allen. We got a 1.5mm Allen. And then we've got our 1.27mm Allen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the trigger out of the gun. So the first thing we're going to use is the needle nose pliers, and you're going to remove first the trigger wheel pin, which is this one right here. There's 5 pins in total. Let me go over that real fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your safety mechanism over here. You don't need to touch that. So you just have these 5 pins. You remove these 5 pins, your trigger is completely disassembled. Honestly, if you just take out this pin, the entire trigger will drop out, and this pin right here holds in the trigger sear, and the other ones are just to hold in place, but I'm going to go over the disassembly of all of them. So first we're going to take our needle nose pliers and pull out the trigger wheel. Make sure the gun is decocked whenever you do this, or else it won't be very pretty on your end. Alright, so there's your first pin. And there's your trigger assembly, comes right on out. And then your second pin right here. That's your trigger, the trigger sear pin. And all the pins are the same size. So what I'm going to use now, I'm going to use the forceps to go in there and grab out the trigger sear. It's a little tricky to get to. Oh, actually, first of all, have to remove this middle pin right here. There you go. And all the pins, yeah, I think I already said this, but all the pins are the same size, so you don't have to worry about getting them mixed up. So now I should be able to just fish this on out. Let me see if I can get in here. Oh, so close. There we go. And there's your trigger sear. Ooh, mine's dirty. There's your trigger sear. And then for these 2 pins right here in the corner, you're not going to be able to grab them with a needle nose. So you're going to use the forceps, and you're going to go in through the bottom cavity where the trigger normally rests, and you're going to pull up. You're going to start at the bottom and pull up until it comes out, just like that. There's the 4th pin, and your final pin. Come on, it's a little tough. Yeah, that pin's not coming out. So anyways, there's that pin right there. It's just like these pins. Normally probably on your rifle it will come out. I probably just hammered mine in the last time in. I would not obviously recommend doing that because it will get jammed. But once again, it's not necessary to remove that pin. The only 2 pins it's necessary to remove is this one right here for the trigger wheel, and this one right here for the trigger sear. And then there's going to be one in the middle that'll block the trigger sear from coming out, so you remove that one. You move those 3 pins right there, and your entire trigger assembly will come out just like that. Alright, so before we get to the tuning and reassembly of the trigger, I figured I might as well go over the different parts of the trigger just so you know what they are. Once again, this is your trigger sear right here. There's no adjustment that can be made on that. It's just, it goes in, gets put in the pin right there, and that's where it catches the hammer. That's where it catches the hammer, and that's where the hammer pushes it back. So basically the hammer slides over it, the rear of the hammer pushes that down, and that catches on the lip of the hammer, and then whenever you fire, it pushes this up so that the hammer is released. Alright, these are your 4 pins. They are 2 by 24, I believe. Alright. And then here we've got the trigger, or the trigger assembly, I should say. We've got your first stage screw right here. It's going to take a 1.5mm Allen. Then you've got your trigger wheel. Mine's polished. This is a special trigger wheel that I've modified, but yours will have a black coating on it. This right here is held in place with a 2mm countersunk. And then we have a blank hole. You can choose which position to have your trigger in, whether you want it farther forward or farther back. This is your trigger post right here. This is a 1.5mm Allen. And then you've got your trigger blade. That's in place with the 1.27mm Allen. Then you've got another screw back here. That's what holds the spring in place. This requires a 1.5mm Allen. You've got your, well, let's go in order. So then you've got this large screw right here. This is your second stage screw. I normally have a pretty light trigger on mine, that's why it's all the way backed out, but there's actually a little steel ball. I don't know if you can see in the video. Yeah, there you go. You can see in the video this little steel ball right there is spring activated. It has a spring inside the screw. This takes a 2mm Allen to adjust. And then in the back here we've got the safety screw, and that's what that's what engages your safety. If that's too far out, your safety won't work, or if it's too far in, your trigger won't pull. This requires a 1.5mm Allen. Alright, so there's your different parts of your trigger. Go ahead and set that right there, right in the middle of the screen. Those are your different parts. Now we're going to put it back into the gun, and after we put it back into the gun, I will go over the different tuning methods. Okay, so now to put the trigger back in, the very first thing we're going to do is put the trigger steer back in. So on the bottom here you can see the hole for the spring, and you've got your hole for your pin. The hole for the pin will line up with that notch right there, that hole. So easiest thing to do is to run it in there, push into place, grab your forceps, do that. You can grab one of your pins, set in the hole, and then use the jaws of the forceps. One goes inside that that hole for the spring, and the other will grab around the lip right there. Give you a nice, just enough tension on it where we can slide it back and forth. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get in. You gotta play around with it some. Well, this is a good learning curve on video. There we go, that should be lined up. Nope, still not. Ah, there we go. And see, the pin just slides right on in, no problem at all. You want to make sure the pin is in all the way, or if the pin's not in all the way, your cover plate right here, which I've already removed for this video, but it won't be able to sit flush, and you'll actually see a little ding pressed up into the plate whenever you go to screw it back on, and it's not really repairable. So the next one will be just to take this extra pin, put in this far left hole over here. Make sure it goes down flush. And then next, put the next pin underneath the trigger sear in that middle hole. If we had been able to remove this pin, we would have put in that as a second pin. So we will have put in the trigger sear, then this pin. And then you can put either of those in at different times. But now we're going to put in the trigger. Remember, there's the small hole in the bottom of the trigger sear. this spring sets into that hole. Let me see if I can angle the gun up where you can see that. Yep. Right there. That hole right there, that spring is going to set into. And then you've got to align the hole on the trigger wheel right here with the hole right here. So, get down on the level, put the spring in, get your trigger wheel lined up, put the whip pin in, and there you go. They're all in. I'm not going to put the cover plate on because I'm going to keep this removed so that you can see the tuning process. Alright, so now we're on to the tuning process. I'm going to get all the tools gathered again and we'll go right into it. Okay, so we're back here. I've moved the camera up a little bit so that we can get a wider view, and also because I'm going to have to turn the gun sideways and such in order to cock it. So I also want to show y'all real fast. Got a Lyman trigger gauge here, and or trigger weight gauge. That's what we're going to be measuring the trigger weight based off of. So I'm going to go ahead and ready it. Go ahead and cock this back. I'm also going to hold the lever back as I'm doing this. Get it right there, and it's shot. And that was about 5 ounces. Clear it again. Oh, 5.8 ounces. Six ounces. 5.9. 5.9 again. So, average of about 6 or 5.9 ounces. I like my trigger very light in first stage. Definitely people do like their 2-stage triggers. I definitely understand that. So, I'm going to set it just like this now. And we're going to go over the different tunings. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the trigger, it's just about as light as it possibly can go. The lightest you can get the trigger on an impact is just about 3.5, 4 ounces. That's the lightest I've ever had a trigger. Another thing I wanted to mention real fast before I do anything else is this gun is completely degassed. There's no gas in the regulator. There's no gas on the gauge. You can see 0. You can see 0. I did this just in case you accidentally do fire or anything like that, like I did just a few minutes ago in the video. Because of that, you want to have the gun completely degassed, no barreling or anything like that. That way it's a lot easier, and also you don't have the chance of firing a pellet. Just be careful. Safety is the most important key. Alright, so now on to actually tuning the trigger. The first thing we're going to do, oops, sorry for hitting the camera. First thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust that second stage screw in so that I can show you what it's like to actually have a second stage. So, I've got my 2mm Allen. Turn the gun back on its side. And I'm just going to turn it in. Turn it in all the way. Because, you know, if you turn it all the way, you'll definitely have second stage, right? Ah, well. Oh, it's still fired. I got second stage. Let's see if I can turn it in some more. So it wasn't quite all the way in. Well, it actually got a little difficult to turn. It won't even cock now. I guess it's already pre-fired. Alright, back it off a little bit. Oh, that was gross. But it's not gonna pull. Nope, nothing. Let me get the Allen back in there. So it's showing about one thread beneath the trigger, and it shoots. So let's gauge it. Cock it back. Right here on the tip. Not too bad, about 8 ounces. Nine. Try to get this to where y'all can see it. I think it's a little bit inconsistent right now. So there's second stage. So second stage was about an ounce. First stage was about 6.4 ounces. So that's still a very light trigger. That's a lot lighter than it comes from factory. Now we're going to use the 1.5 millimeter to, well, here, let me double check some. Let me see if it fires on safe. Ooh, that's gross. See, you don't want that snapping action whenever you go, when it's on safe, so you're going to want to back that out, that safety screw out just a little bit. Still won't fire on safe, that's important. Never want to back out your safety screw enough to where it will fire on safe. Still won't fire. That's nice and clean now. There's no grinding. It's a clean snap forward, and it's not going to fire on safe. Oh, there we go. Alright, so if I was to back it out all the way, or actually turn it in, yeah, I'll turn it in a lot more. See, it won't even fire on fire. It's on fire right now. That's what happens if you turn your safety screw too much. Also, it might cause it, if you have it in way too far, it might not even cock. So there we go. I'll put it to about right there. Nope, not quite. Do another turn, fire it, put it back on safe, and nice, clean, and it doesn't fire. Very clean. Alright, awesome. So let's go to first stage now. So the first stage, again, we're still at the 1.5. So what happens if I turn that screw some more? You turn in the screw, that removes first stage. You back out the screw, that increases the first stage. So the more you screw it in, the less first stage you're going to have. As you can see, it's very flush now. If I go to cock this, it's not even going to cock, because technically the trigger is already pulled. You bring it out some, you can almost see the trigger move. Well, there you go. You can definitely see that move. So right now, let's see. Turn back on the meter. We are at just a little bit heavier. Not much, actually. Let's see if we back out that screw some more even. It's almost like a 3 or 4 stage trigger. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's a very sloppy trigger right there. So here we go. Getting pretty heavy there. So obviously we don't want that much play in the trigger. So you're going to want about probably... Oh, hold on real fast. I gotta go grab that. Decock the gun. Put it on safe. I'm going to grab that real fast. Okay, we're back. Got the tool back. Didn't go very far. So... once again, we're turning in, we got about 4 threads showing, or 4 to 5 threads showing. Still popping out quite a bit. That's still pretty rough. So let's turn in some more. Still a little bit of creep in there. Still a little bit of creep in there. What we're actually going to have to do is this screw back here that holds the spring in place. We're going to back that out a couple turns because the trigger is going to bounce out more the more compression is on that spring. So very smooth now. Wow, about 6 ounces. Uh, 6 to 7 ounces. Still a nice trigger pull though. If we turn in that second stage some more, about 1 more turn, it's not even gonna fire. Again, I just want to go over a fact. I do have a modified trigger in this. I've modified the parts to make it such a light trigger. On your trigger, you're probably not going to get from factory this light with these settings, but this is just an overall tutorial on how to tune your trigger. These settings are possible from a factory stock trigger completely. I do it all the time. You just have to be able to adjust it properly. So that's the important part, is to know how to properly adjust it and to get in there and make the balance between the first stage and the second stage correct. You want a light second stage. You want your second stage to be less than 2 ounces so that once you're pulling through and it stops, you know any more pressure is going to pull the trigger. Just like that. any more pressure is going to pull the trigger. For your first stage, it might come down a little bit, but you don't want any creep. See, like that, how it gets hung up? That's not good. You don't want your trigger to get hung up. And also, you want it to where if you press in, it resets itself. So with that, it might be that I need to go back in on that spring screw some. Not quite, almost. So you have positive return there. That way, that whenever you pull your trigger, like if you're going to pull through, you decide not to take the shot, you can let go and you still get your trigger back. This can be effective from either that spring screw or your first stage screw if it's not properly adjusted. But most time it's the spring screw because there is not enough pressure on the spring in order to push the trigger back down. I want to get that second stage a little bit heavier. And it's just not doing it. Like I said, this is probably because my trigger is aftermarket, I guess you could call it. I've done a lot of modification to it. But look at there, you still have your first stage return. Yeah, see though, there you go. The second stage got a lot heavier this time. Second stage. I'm probably pulling that a little bit. So here we go, first stage. Here's your second stage. So yeah, that got a lot heavier, between 13 to 15 ounces. If you don't want the trigger to come down as much, remember you screw in. And look, you can literally watch this move right now as the gun is cocked. As you turn in the screw, you can watch it tighten up. So if you don't want as much first stage, you're going to turn that screw in some. Let's put that one back on the meter. Second stage. Yeah, so about 15 ounces still. So we're going to back off of that second stage. And I've lost my second stage. So you're going to turn back in on it. Back off a little bit. I'm going to turn it back now to give it a nice second stage and a first stage. There we go. right in the middle. There you go, there's a good 8-ounce trigger. Even lighter. If you pull on the bottom of the trigger, there's your second stage. Oh, hold on. See, now there's no first stage return. So that's a very big problem. So now there's no first stage return, so we just turned in the spring a little bit tighter. And it still doesn't do anything, so you're going to turn in a little bit tighter. And it's okay to have the Allen key in there. So basically what it looks like is I have my first stage adjusted too much to where the spring is not going to matter anymore. So I need to pull it out about 3/4 of a turn. I'm going to go ahead and pull the spring screw out some now too. So you don't want that. You don't want it to hang up like that. So it's an equal distribution between your first stage screw and your spring screw right here. You gotta have these working in unison in order to get a proper trigger. Also, very well might have to do with the second stage. As in the trigger's getting hung up because the second stage doesn't allow enough clearance. So barely turning, about 1/4 turn. Not quite yet. And there you go. You got your first stage return back. But your second stage is now not working. So another thing that could cause the second stage to not work is your trigger screw is too far in. I mean, not your trigger, your safety screw. Your safety screw is too far in, blocking the trigger from firing. So I'm going to back that out. About a 1/2 turn. It wasn't that. So let's back out on the second stage. 1/4 turn. And there you go. Let's make sure it still fires, or does not fire on safe. It does fire on safe. So turn in the safety screw. And we're back to square one. And there we have it. After some more adjustment, turn the safety, the first stage, and then turn in the first stage spring. I'm going to back out the second stage slightly, 1/4 turn. Make it nice and crisp. About turn a little bit more tension onto the spring. And let's see what this trigger is at. Turn on the trigger meter. It's pretty heavy now. If I'm not mistaken, the trigger comes about 12 ounces to a pound from the factory. So this is basically, this is basically a factory trigger at this point. Now, once again, I'm going to take it back to my settings, so there's going to be no second stage. I'm going to take that completely out. I'm going to take out a lot of the first stage spring. And I'm going to increase the first stage screw, or the first stage of the trigger, a lot. Now that's super light. Again, middle of the trigger, about 5 ounces. Bottom of the trigger, about the same. Top of the trigger, 3 ounces at the top. 2 ounces. Wow, that is a light trigger. So about an average of about 3 ounces. So we're going to take some of that first stage out. Now instant fires. Just about 5 ounces, so take a little bit more. Also going to increase the spring a little bit. That'll add you some tension. Ooh, my thumb's getting sore from holding that cocking lever. So, take out the spring a little bit more. So I don't want it to bounce like that. Four ounces, 5 ounces, about 5 ounces, and one more, 4 ounces. So between 4 to 5 ounces, that's how I like my trigger. As I've shown, the trigger can be lighter. Put the gun on safe. So there you have it. There's the trigger video right there. If y'all have any questions about the trigger or anything like that, please drop a comment or shoot me an email. All my information is in the About page on my YouTube channel. You can also send me an email to 910airguntuner@gmail.com. More than happy to help out with anyone's problems or anything like that. Alright, so yeah, drop a like, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell so that you always hear about these videos. And if you have any questions again, just please let me know. I'm more than happy to help. Alright, hope y'all have a great time and happy shooting.